When my sister was 4, she walked by my bed and saw my scissors. She stopped, looked back at them, and then said, "You know, I could chop your head off with these." When my son was 3, we were driving at night and passed a big empty house with no lights on. He pointed to the house, started waving his tiny hand and said, "There's a clown in there." I've refused to take that road ever since. I was a camp counselor, and while running a program called Paint the Counselors, a 4-year-old leaned in behind me, started painting my hair and whispered in my ear, "I'm gonna peel off all your skin." My daughter and I went for a walk through a cemetery while we waited for my son to finish his piano lessons next door. She stopped dead in the middle of the graveyard, pointed at a grave, spaced out and said, "This is where you're going to sleep forever." One of my preschool students decided to tell us about the man who watches over her from her doorway while she sleeps. She told us that he gets very close to her face, and when she tells him to leave her alone, he disappears. I walked into the bathroom to get my 4-year-old out of the bath, and she quietly said, "Mom, all my toys are dead. I held them under the water, and now they're dead." She then whispered over and over again, "Dead in the water, dead in the water, dead in the water." My mom's grandfather died very close to her wedding day. When my brother was born and first learned to talk, he'd always talked about a man named Steve. Steve was my great-grandfather's name. My 4-year-old daughter randomly said to me, "I want to know what the inside of your head looks like." I was in a grocery store and walked by a mother with her 5-year-old. The little boy smiled and waved, so I smiled and waved back. Then he said, "You should eat your friends for dinner. That's what we do." My cousin's front door randomly opened by itself, and her 3-year-old son said, "Hi, Uncle Pat." Pat was my cousin's brother who died 10 years earlier, but her son had never even been told about him. My little cousin came home and started staring at all the Christmas decorations. He said, "It will take 11 days. 11 days later, we went out for dinner and an intruder took most of our decorations." I was changing my daughter's diaper in the middle of the night when my 2-year-old came in and stood next to me. She looked at me with a big smile and, in a sing-song voice, said, "Mommy, there's somebody behind you." The scary thing was, we were home alone. My friend's 4-year-old had an imaginary friend, Jenna. One time we were in the car and stopped at a red light next to a cemetery. She looked up and said, "Bye, Jenna." Her mom asked her where Jenna was going. She then pointed to the cemetery and said, "Home. She lives there." When our second daughter was born, our 3-year-old whispered in her ear, "Tell me what God looks like. I forget." It freaked me and my husband out. I was changing my daughter's shirt and I got a feeling that there was another person around, but we were home alone. My daughter looked behind me and said, "She's hanging from the roof, Mommy. Don't look." Never have I moved so fast in my life. We were walking outside and my younger brother got scared of how loud the church bells were and started to cry. I had no recollection of this, but my mom swore that I comforted him by saying, "Don't worry, I used to be scared of them too, before I died, but I'm not anymore." I was watching TV and my 5-year-old sister cuddled up to me and started to make circles with her finger around my lips. She said, "A man is going to shoot you. You're gonna die, you know, soon." My mom told stories about how when I was younger I'd scream out of nowhere and point to a corner of the room and cry about a scary lady. 5 years later, when my brother was the same age I was, he started screaming and pointing at the same corner, mentioning a scary lady. One of my exes committed suicide. Shortly after, I was watching a movie with my niece, and she looked up and asked, "Who's sitting next to you?" I told her that no one was, and she said, "No, there's a tall man with red hair sitting next to you. He says his name is Alex. He says hi." My ex's name was Alex.